I don't know whose sadistic idea it was to make this a public execution, but let me tell you where you made the mistake. They're guarding information about this flight. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't like that we've got feds guarding like FBO information. I don't know anything other than that Josh Hammer is an idiot who can't be trusted and lies through his teeth.
Candace Owens just claimed that Charlie Kirk's murder was a military operation, and in this clip, she explores her evidence for that and what leads her to that conclusion based on flight information, and also exposes the lies of Josh Hammer, who recently posted a long-winded explanation, which is ridiculous, about why Charlie Kirk said, verbatim, "I have no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause." Let's get right into it. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
One area of conversation that I haven't said much about, but I want you to know we are still working on it, are the two planes that day, right? The one of them being the plane that people have recognized is military. That's tail number N1098L. So this plane left from Texas, went over to Utah right about the time that Charlie got assassinated. It dipped real low. It seemed like who knows what this plane was being sent there for, but the fact that this plane had been used in the military rightfully alerted people to the fact that they may have had some knowledge. This plane may have had some knowledge of what was going to occur. But one thing I want to clarify for you is that that plane was being contracted. You guys noticed that it was owned by LaSalle Aviation LLC. We are awaiting more information, but I just wanted to let you know that if you recognize that, it is strange. It did happen. There's no question. I've been saying from the beginning, this was a military operation. It's very obvious. The more you peel back the onion, it is very obvious that this was a military operation. So it's fitting that you would have a plane that the military certainly uses. Who would contract that sort of plane? Now, would be a very easy question for Kash Patel to answer. Hey, Kash Patel, most transparent ever, except when it comes to Epstein. What's up with this plane? Certainly, you have knowledge of who contracted this plane. The answer, if you're being transparent, is going to be like, oh, just a coincidence. Just a coincidence. Somebody decided to take a vacation flight from Texas over Utah to do a little circle and return back home. It happens all the time.
All right, well, I'm with her on the lack of transparency in this deep state with Kash Patel and Dan Bongino and Pam Bondi clearly covering up the Epstein files. As far as this being a military operation, it doesn't seem like she's going off much more than this flight, crossed airspace near this event and nothing else. I mean, it takes a little bit more for me to buy into that, and I'd like her to tell all the things and list all the things she thinks points in that direction. Maybe she's done that in some other episodes. I've watched every single episode since Charlie Kirk's murder, but I would like to know more specifics about why she believes that. Not saying that that's absolutely not true, but for me, it takes something like, a connected military gunman that you talk about was the one that shot Charlie Kirk, present your evidence for doing that, connections to a military government, talk about that. We haven't really seen that, and this flight might be a red herring. I'm not saying that it is for sure, but it takes a little bit more for me to buy into that. Not saying that she's wrong for exploring the opportunity, would just like to have more before I would conclude that. I also wanted to get into the other flight that's been followed in this. There was a Bombardier Challenger 300 that took off exactly 1 hour and 20 minutes after Charlie Kirk's death. Happened at 1:43 local time and mountain time. Charlie was shot at 12:23, and according to the owner of the plane, the CEO of the company that owned the plane, Derek Maxfield, this was just a conspiracy theory. It had nothing to do with a connection to the killing, and that it is routine for private planes to turn off their transponder, and it's not illegal per the FAA. But that is an opportunity to explore, more things regarding this. I'm not saying shut the door on that either. There doesn't seem to be that much since then, but just my thoughts on it.
When you're bored and you just have an unbelievable amount of money, that's what you do. We're not going to get those answers from Kash Patel about that plane. We're not even getting straight answers about the other plane. That's the plane where Derek Maxfield, his wife Shalane Maxfield, they sold some beauty company for billions, I believe, and they now just run a human sex trafficking organization in Utah. That was that plane. I can't remember. 888 is what I actually remember. And it seemed as though that plane left. It went to Page, Arizona, and it appeared that the ADS-B transponder turned off. Now, what Kash Patel told us is different from what Derek Maxfield told us. Derek Maxfield on Instagram clarified that the air traffic control center was in agreement with them that they could stop transponding. Kash Patel says that plane never stopped transponding. So I don't know what the truth is, and I'm not even pretending that we're ever going to get the truth. What I can tell you is that the investigation that we have been privately conducting has led to more questions than answers.
Interesting. I didn't know that that was Kash Patel's claim, actually. I'm not doubting her 1 second. I just didn't catch that piece of the story, that he's claiming that the transponder of that plane, the Bombardier 300, the Derek Maxfield plane, that had never been turned off. Interesting. That does conflict with Derek Maxfield. I mean, that's an avenue for exploration for me. I'll look more into it. But yeah, I don't think we're going to really get many answers on these things. But it takes more than this sort of thing to connect it to the killing for me. You have to show me some kind of smoking gun of some sort. And it doesn't have to be, a silver bullet smoking gun. Give me something. Give me something like the fact that the FBI tried to have Martin Luther King commit suicide, and James Angleton's angle with the CIA and CIA surveillance of Lee Harvey Oswald. Give me something like that to go off rather than, just empty speculation. I'm not saying that's exactly what Candace is doing, but to get me to declare this is a military operation, I need more. I need a little bit more substance, not shutting down the conversation. I think, her exploring it is heroic.
Obviously, multiple pilots, people that work at these airports, people who are invested in this story have reached out, and I'm grateful for that. Multiple people have confirmed that this plane was a little bit weird that day. It was supposed to land in Page, Arizona, in Millionaire FBO. Last second, it made a change. Just so you guys know, an FBO is just a private terminal. So if you're in a public airport, you go to Terminal 7. If you're flying private, you go to FBO, and it has a name. So that plane was supposed to land into an FBO called Millionaire. Last second, that plane decided to change and say, we are going to instead land into Signature, a different FBO. Apparently it landed into Signature. That's certainly what we were told, but there's something off about that, because when people are trying to look into it, somebody at that FBO at first said, oh yes, you've made multiple trips in the last couple of days. And then that person said, I don't know what you're talking about. No plane ever landed here. What? Multiple people have confirmed this for me, that there's something very unusual about this flight. They are guarding information about this flight. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't like that we've got feds guarding like FBO information. We've got feds guarding Dairy Queens. I don't know. Do you need your ice cream guarded? What is going on? Like, guys, you gotta just give up. It's gonna come out. Whatever it is gonna come out. You would have to, and I wouldn't put it past you, you'd have to get rid of all of us. You got like 7 billion people you've got to ethnically cleanse right now if you want us to just forget about the Charlie Kirk story. No one's forgetting it, okay?
Yeah, I'm with her on that. I want there to be focus on this story. It's the highest profile political assassination probably since RFK or Martin Luther King. Certainly so. So I'm with her on that. I'm with attention on this story. It is important. Dismantling the FBI's narrative in some cases, and maybe that's an understatement, it seems to be absurd. It seems to be asking the public a lot to buy into some of this stuff. And, some things me and Candace disagree on regarding this investigation and the substance of some of the things versus the substance of some of the others. She seems to put a lot of emphasis into the Tyler's a patsy theory. I put more emphasis into the George Zinn thing is the craziest thing. She does focus on that too. But, despite these areas of disagreement, it is important to keep eyes on this. I'm with her on that 100%. Especially in regard to the story of the Zionist pressure on Charlie, which is equally important to the murder itself. What this shows about our political system and how the Zionist donor class tried to twist organizations like Charlie's and twists our public officials, our elected officials, to support the modern Israeli state. It's bogus. And, I commend Candace for following this where it goes, exploring the avenues she has. We have some disagreements, but this is a good approach.
Not the ballistics guys on YouTube that we're all listening to. And no one's gonna let this one go because, and by the way, that's your fault. I don't know whose sadistic idea it was to make this a public execution, but let me tell you where you made the mistake, okay? In 1963, when JFK was shot, people didn't watch it on TikTok. People mostly read about it, and then the feds lied about it, and they heard about it. But to be able to have us watch that live around the world, you traumatized all of us. And not in the way that you meant to. You meant to traumatize us and maybe then make us fearful and scared. And yeah, that happened. Then you made us really angry that corruption is allowed to be like this, just so blatant and so in our face, looking at us as if we're nothing. And what are you going to do about it? That's the attitude. What are you going to do about it?
I totally agree with this mentality, and that's true for this situation and the ordeal in Gaza. And calling it an ordeal is wrong. It's a genocide, and calling the U.S. funding for genocide in Gaza is wrong. Obviously immoral, vile, reprehensible, whatever word you want to attribute to that. And people are seeing that in 4K from TikTok, from videos on Instagram and YouTube. It's information that's getting out where it would have been filtered out via the legacy media and the monopoly that the big, media giants had several decades ago. That certainly happened during JFK. It wasn't exactly to get information easy and dissident views on that assassination in the days after it. But now they can't hide the truth. They can't hide what we see. And that is the case in the Epstein case, in Gaza. And this is the mentality we need to have. This is the mentality that the dissident world, right and left, needs to embrace. Is that what are you going to do about the information that isn't exactly absolving the feds of wrongdoing coming into our access and our view? It's to teach the truth, expose the truth despite their evils in all three of those stories as far as I'm concerned. But I'm totally with her on this attitude.
You wanted to traumatize us and then to, on a dime, flip and look us in the face and go, how dare you ask questions? People are grieving. Yeah, we're grieving because you assassinated Charlie Kirk in front of the entire world. If you had pretended he slipped and fell on some ice in the winter, maybe you wouldn't have this response. But you got our attention because you went after our attention. You wanted this for whatever sadistic reason. You wanted this to be a public execution, and that disturbs me. So you get what you get, okay? This is the internet generation. You get TikTokers that are asking questions. You get our military guys. You get our ballistic boys. You get the TikTok medium psychic ladies. You get everybody. All of us are here, okay? It's like a high school class. You got all different types of characters here, but we're running this.
Yeah, that's right. And it's no one else's fault that has happened than the FBI, then the deep state for covering up all these scandals, all these stories, covering up the sex trafficking ring from Epstein that was likely part of a blackmail operation on behalf of Israel, covering that up, not giving us answers when you profess that you would, while you tried to make that a focal point of your campaign, Kash Patel and Donald Trump. That's what you get. You're going to get internet sleuths, and you can call them conspiracy theorists and idiots and, deranged and off the hinges all you want, but it's only your fault that people have done that. Why? Because your trust level is in the dumps, and that might be being too charitable. People do not trust the mainstream media apparatus or the U.S. deep state, our institutions, certainly not our three-letter agencies, after all the vile crimes they've been involved with, regime change operations, psychological operations against Americans, like in Operation Mockingbird or MK Ultra. That is what we have to deal with, and that is the reason that your conspiracy theorists have been produced. It's because of your evils and how you've covered up the truth.
Okay, we're running this. And we're not going to be nice to any substitute teachers that you try to throw in there and try to calm down. Nope, we're not doing that. Okay? We're not calming down. We're pretty upset and we're going to stay upset. Anyways, I'm going to tell you guys also in an update about Josh Hammer. He's an idiot. He really is an idiot. First and foremost, just funny. I should have pulled it up. He also brought up his book. He issued a statement about the retreat weekend. Josh Hammer just lies through his teeth all the time. And so he was releasing a statement about how wonderful the Hamptons retreat was and that him and Seth Dillon totally did not press Charlie on anything. And in this public statement, he mentioned his book again. He said, like, I came to the Hamptons because Charlie wanted me to bring signed copies of my book. I mean, wacky. This man, it's always appropriate if you're Josh Hammer to promote your book, which is just amazing. Anyways, his response yesterday to our episode was to release text messages between him and Charlie following the call. Great. It lets us know that the call happened at the exact same time that we figured it would actually happen in our timeline, that it had to have been an evening call before he tweeted public execution in this 3-hour window. But these are the messages. We should read them. Charlie Kirk, thank you for your help, guys. A totally standard response that you say no matter what. Exclamation point. And then I assume this is Josh Hammer that replies and says, good luck at the campus visit start. Don't hesitate to let me know or any of us know how we can help. What's your first stop tomorrow, by the way? And I felt like that was weird because I feel like his whole story was that Charlie was reaching out to him because he wanted help to strengthen his debate. He needed tips on how to, because he just loved Israel so hard that he was like, give me the best talking points so I can go out there and I can defend this state. And I know that like a couple hours ago, I was really angry and I said, I'm done with the pro-Israel lobby, but now I just love you so much that I want to get on the phone with you and have you, who could not beat me in a debate, teach me how to debate. That's what he told us. So we're supposed to believe that he didn't know where Charlie was debating, but that was what the call was about.
He cared more about his book and promoting his stupid-ass Zionist book than where Charlie was heading. That's the truth, right? I mean, he could just come out and say that and we would probably believe it at this point because of how much he's used Charlie's assassination to try to sell his book, peddle this stupid-ass pro-Zionist, pro-Israel book in every opportunity, trying to twist the legacy of his supposed friend that he was so good friends with, just so that he could lead the narrative to support his side of this divide on the right. One that Charlie didn't have in the end, clearly so, by saying he was going to lead the pro-Israel cause. Josh Hammer's just reprehensible, and what he's doing cannot be justified in any way. That tweet was full of lies, and maybe we'll go into him here in a second.
I don't know. I feel like you would maybe know, and that may have come up in a call where you were prepping for his debate tomorrow, where exactly it was that he was debating tomorrow. I don't know anything other than that Josh Hammer is an idiot who can't be trusted and lies through his teeth.
Well, that sure is the truth. No doubt about that. Josh Hammer's a snake, but let's dissect this tweet. All right. So first of all, he unleashes this long screed. And the first thing I thought of, and this is how I replied, is that, it must have been hell for you to get through this entire post without promoting the book, because his stupid ass Zionist book. Because let's be real, when he was typing out this message, probably between, I don't know, this paragraph and this paragraph, he wanted to insert a paragraph that said, right now you can buy my pro-Zionist book that talks about the legacy of the benefits between the U.S.-Israeli alliance and how that helps us so much and furthers the American cause, and how the cause of Israel is the cause of us all. He wanted to probably put that between those two paragraphs, or maybe I'm being too kind to Josh and he probably wanted them between these two paragraphs. But anyways, let's just get right into this. This thing is full of lies, just so many lies. So let's break down what I think the 3 or 4 major ones are. So first of all, he claims that a high-profile, deeply unwell lunatic, clearly referring to Candace Owens, alleged that he somehow had foreknowledge or worse of my own friend's horrific assassination. All right, that's not what Candace Owens claims. She pointed out that this was weird if you're going to quote tweet Trump about how public executions would be great and, solve a problem. I think he was referring to drug dealers on that topic, and quote tweet that saying based. just hours before his friend dies, how odd that is, how that is at least worth exploring as a story. She did not allege that he had foreknowledge of his friend's horrific assassination. If she said that, she could be sued. She's not stupid. She's too smart to say that. She knows that she could be sued for that. So this is just stupid. That's not what she alleged. That's not what anyone else, that's high profile like her and these big podcasts have alleged. And she has to know that would open her up to all sorts of, slander allegations and potential slander legal charges. So that said, he portrays this turn where verbatim Charlie Kirk said, "I have no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel cause." He sells that as if it was just blowing off steam, right? He says, "Oh, donors have the right to withhold donations, and organizations have every right to then be upset about it." This isn't just being upset about it, man. This is turning against the pro-Israel cause. He put it so blatantly there. There's a lot of ways to blow off steam, and a very small percentage of them involve staking a new route for your organization based upon what has happened to it. And that's clear that that was happening. Not only from that statement, but also saying, hey, I'm thinking about asking Candace Owens to speak at the next event that Tucker Carlson was going to be at, that, Robert Shillman did not like that he was going to be at. There's lots of ways to blow off steam. Not all of them involve staking out a new position on your organization and its ties to the pro-Israel cause, which Charlie clearly wanted to discard. So full of lies right there. Now, he also claims that, I've repeatedly said that Charlie wasn't turning on his career-long friendships with the Jewish people and the Jewish state of Israel. The latter's false. We know from Candace's screenshots now he did turn against the pro-Israel cause, that is the Jewish state of Israel. But it's never been questioned that he was turning on his career-long friendships with the Jewish people that he had close to him. It's not to say he didn't, dislike the fact that some donations were pulled from pro-Zionist Jews, but he didn't break any long-standing friendships with Jews as far as we know. And again, Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, Max Blumenthal, those guys didn't allege that he was breaking off friendships with Jewish people. That's not what this issue pertains to, man. This issue pertains to Israel, a criminal government that the U.S. is funding to do a genocide, to get us sucked into wars, to give up American sovereignty for the, basis of AIPAC to lead the U.S. government in any direction it wants. It has nothing to do with that. So that's lies. And this one is kind of a similar lie. He said Charlie was passionate about fighting the mind virus of conspiratorial Jew hatred, something he made clear over and over again. Actually, that's not a lie. What I'm saying here is Josh Hammer's trying to manipulate us here by saying that this is an argument. This is a straw man. Actually, that's true. Charlie was passionate about fighting against Jew hatred over and over and over, repeatedly so. I don't see any reason to question that. But that's not the issue here, man. It reminds me of Big Lebowski. The Chinaman is not the issue here, dude, right? This is not the issue. No one has alleged that Charlie Kirk stopped being passionate about fighting against Jew hatred. No one said that. What they said is, based on the evidence Candace revealed, he had turned his back on Israel. He had decided that his organization was going to, quote, leave the pro-Israel cause. You can try to spin that however you want, but none of us are buying it. So I made that poll a few days back where, hey, I wanted to have some fun with this, right? What are Zionists going to do? How are they going to spin this? What are they going to say as an explanation for these screenshots that clearly were confirmed, by several sources, including Turning Point USA, and involved very pro-Zionist people in that group chat? Well, how are they going to spin this? And I said, option one, it's a Qatari Photoshop job. Obviously, some of them went with that for 24 hours until TPUSA confirmed it too, which is run by a lot of Zionists still, right? Option number two was, he didn't mean it. He couldn't have meant that. And option three was, it's anti-Semitic to bring this up. And all three of those options have been embraced to some extent, but option two is what Josh Hammer is going with. He didn't mean it. This was blowing off steam. It's just so ridiculous. Yeah, that's the way to blow off steam. Talk about where your organization is going in the midst of the ground lost by the Israel lobby, lost by the Zionists, lost by the Israel firsters. Coleman Hughes of the debate with Dave Smith even said, I'm not going to try to defend Netanyahu. And Israel should immediately withdraw from Gaza. That was one of their top guys, one of the top Zionist guys. They're not even trying to defend this nonsense anymore. It's only people like Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro and Josh Hammer trying to defend this nonsense, this bloodshed, this genocide, all the military strikes against Israel's Arabian neighbors. And this is just full of lies and manipulations. There's straw mans, all sorts of obfuscation here to make excuses for the fact that what Candace revealed was true. And that's what I'll say. That's where we're at. There was lots of lies here. I'm surprised that Josh Hammer even had the gall to post this, but he is brazen. He's brazen in his lies. He's brazen in trying to twist the legacy of his dead friend just to serve his own personal political ambitions and the side he wants in the Israel debate. While his friend's corpse isn't even fully cold yet. It's just so vile. I can't overstate that. And then you have him lying over and over and taking the opportunity upon his friend's death to just plug his book to say, oh yeah, the last thing Charlie said was how great my book was and I was going to talk about it. And even if Charlie did say something like that and that happened to be coincidentally one of their last conversations or whatever, why would you say that? Why would you make this about yourself? It's just so low and reprehensible. There's no way out of that, and people see through that. And man, if I was Josh Hammer, I'd just move to Israel right now, man. Just move to Israel, become the next Jonathan Pollard, be welcomed there as a hero, right? That's what I would do, because he is really going to get it. His takes have aged so horribly, and this has exposed his lies and manipulation so badly. I don't think he can get through this, man. I just think so many people see this through to what it is, and you can see that from a lot of the response tweets to this. He got ratioed so bad by people like Ian Carroll who agreed with me. That's kind of what I was going with. Just move to Israel at this point, man. He got ratioed bad, and that's what we're going to get, but he deserves it, man. And I'm so glad that Candace Owens decided to cover this. Thank you, Candace. Thank you for exposing his lies. I hope we hear more people that were in that quote or that chat group so that we know who else was privy to this. Right now, we only know 4. Andrew Kovlet, Josh Hammer, Rob McCoy, and Charlie himself so far. I think that's all we know, but there were as many as 8 members, I think. I hope that is revealed, but I think we'll see sooner rather than later. That's probably going to come out, so we'll see. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Josh Hammer is a lunatic? Do you think there's something to this military operation theory that Candace is bringing up? Why am I wrong? Why do I have it wrong? Am I being too harsh on that idea for wanting to, have more connecting points on it? Let me know in the comments down below. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to Candace Owens. Thank you, Candace, for your awesome investigation and for exposing the lies of these criminals in Israel and in the duplicitous liars in the United States. And if you enjoyed this video and my commentary, please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can do that. It would mean the world to me if you support my channel that way. And in return, I'll give you access to all my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.